That actually kind of reminds me of something else that I think another point that I'd bring up is like, it's interesting that I think in practicality, you kind of want to become an atheist just because you feel like you're so burnt by religious organizations that have just done you wrong and steered you wrong and have turned out to be false. And so again, like I get that. But it's interesting too that like I think you're wise enough that you can't just deny the existence of God. Like
no,
that's
100% no.
Yeah, and so like on what you just said,
100%.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't. Every time I don't know how it works, but whenever like I start speaking, I don't know. This iPhone 11 is just crazy. Whenever I start speaking and you're speaking at the same time, it mutes you. So I think that you're listening, and then
oh no, you're good.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So here's kind of what I'm saying, and I want you to know again, like I'm not trying to convert you. Like I respect your decision to go where you want. I'm saying this to you, and I'm saying to others. Like my encouragement would be, again, I want to give you something else to think about, because I know the kind of the knee-jerk response to an experience in a group like this has just burned you and caused you confusion and turned out to be false. It's just like, man, I'm just done with this God thing. Like I've tried it. It's not worked out, and I'm done with it. Like I get that, and I can sympathize with that. My encouragement would be to think about a few things as you're kind of making that decision. One would be going back to what you just said, which I think was so true about people can go out and do good. I would say that like apart from one thing is like, how do atheists have any foundation to go out and do good? Because if there's not a God, I think God is the only one who can really give any real purpose and meaning to doing good. And so that doesn't mean that, atheists there's many good people that are atheists. Like I'm not saying atheists can't be good people. But what I'm saying is that at the core of it, like I've had to come to this point of, like I'm speaking from personal experience, because I've had things, even walking in pursuit of Jesus as a Christian, I have times where I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This isn't working out the way I think it should. God's not coming through in this way. I feel like he's ignoring me here. And all these confusing things that happen, which really we can look back in the Psalms and see that the psalmist can relate to that, where he's saying, where are you, God? What's going on? But he continued to trust God. But what I think
there was something in the Bible that said, even if God doesn't choose to save me, I'm still
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, even if he doesn't save me. But what I want to say, just one thing to think about maybe is, and I'm telling you this because I've had to think about this in my own moments of like just being tempted to just throw in the towel on faith in God, is like what I have to come to terms with is like, if I do that, I feel like if I leave God, I'm also leaving any real reason to live a life of meaning or purpose or like morality. Like I'm married, I have kids. Well, if I forsake my relationship with God, what foundation, what basis is there now to remain a faithful husband? Or to remain Now, listen, I know that people have just an intuitive desire to do good, but like if somebody was to ask me, like if I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, I have no relationship with God, why are you why do you want to help people? Why do you want to, help the old lady cross the street? Like at the end of the day, I can't really give a foundational answer to why. As a follower of Jesus, I can say, well, because I believe God is a loving God in heaven who loves me. And so if, when I do good, I'm actually acting out in character with who God created me to be. Because God is a loving God, there's actually worth, there's actually real, true value and significance in this life. And so when I'm faithful to my wife, it's more than just like, well, I just want to be a moral person and we're all going to die and just go back to the dust. There's no God, there's no judgment, there's no anything, there's no real value to it. If that's the way it is, there's no real meaning to anything I do. If even I could choose to do good things or I could choose to do bad things. If there's no God, neither one really matters. There's not, there is no real right. There's no real wrong. Because without God, God's the one who has to be, you have to have a moral lawgiver to have moral.
In order to have any moral
objective moral standards. So I'm just saying, like, this is something I've had to come to terms with, is like, if I leave God, if I leave faith in Jesus, I feel like I'm also at the same time, I'm being forced to leave any real foundation I have in my life to live a life of significance and value, where I actually have a purpose and reason to pursue love for my neighbor, or to pursue doing good things in life. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. It's, how can I say this though? I don't know where I stand as of yet. I'm not
totally, and I don't want you to like feel like you have to. That I just want to give you things to go away from this conversation thinking about, and people listening. Like, if you choose to go the way you want, and I'm not going to judge you and look down on you or anybody. I believe in God 100%. Right. God is the reason why I wake up. Yes.
I fear God 100%. Like, it's not here. Let me fix this. I'm starting to become slouch. It's not something that, it's something that World Society Church of God was like a disease.
Yeah.
That once got rid of, like cancer, once got rid of, you just gotta find your groove again.
Yep. Definitely.
You can't just
jump back in. Yeah, I get that, and that's why I keep saying, like, it's okay that it's going to be a process, and it's not going to be like an overnight thing where it's like, oh well, out of the World Mission Society into, another denomination. And it's like, what I would say too with that is, like, it's not about a denomination. Don't join another denomination. Just figure out what it is. What does it look like? Follow Jesus, I'm
sorry. The way that you said it, I was like 100% yes. Do not join another denomination.
Yeah. Man-made.
The last thing that I want to do is hear something out of someone's mouth that they said came from God, when really it came from a freaking man in a Korean room from North Korea, and he just wanted money out of you.
Exactly. Yes.
We're not going to keep talking about that.
Yes. And so that's actually, that brings up a good point of another thing that, like, as even followers of Jesus, I think, like myself, other people can relate to this, that there are those temptations, and like where you have to stop and think, like, is this really the way I want to live my life? And those moments where you're like, man, like, I could really just throw in the towel on this whole faith thing right now. But another thing I have to come to terms with is just kind of the question that Jesus asked the disciples when he said, who are people saying that I am? What are people saying about me? And then he said, who do you say that I am? And so, like, when I think about history, I look at the historical facts, and it goes beyond just like World Mission Society men and women making things up about religion and about Aung San Hong, and it's not made up things. But you go back and look at history, there's some historical data that shows us there was a real man named Jesus, lived in Nazareth, and history shows us he was crucified, and the best evidence shows us he rose again the third day, and his followers immediately started dying because they refused to stop telling people the truth that he had rose from the dead. He was God, and he had brought salvation. And so I kind of have to come to terms with, and you have to come to terms with, and every individual listening has to come to terms with that question that Jesus asked. Who do you say that Jesus is? What are you going to do with Jesus? And that's why I say, don't go and join another denomination. You just answer that question personally for yourself. Like, it's not about what are you going to do with Catholicism or the World Mission Society or Mormonism or Protestantism or any other ism. What are you going to do with the man Christ Jesus, right? Like, what are you going to say about him? This man who our entire calendar system of his all throughout the world, the whole calendar system is based on this man's life, Jesus Christ, not Aung San Hong, but Jesus Christ.
Jesus
and so
Christ,
there's something significant and figuring out how am I personally going to answer that question of, and that's what I encourage you to think about.